In the previous part, surprisingly, Go and Sung managed to pass Dungeon 1-4, but it seems an old man is waiting for the youth. So, what happens next? Let's find out. The focus reinforcement has been activated, and notifications on the hologram screen immediately light up when Go and Sung is in danger. His instinct immediately kicks in, his eyes shining with energy, and he retreats backward at the right moment. Go and Sung manages to evade, but the front part of his body still gets hit by the axe attack. Fortunately, with the protection from his armor, his body isn't crushed. Nevertheless, he still falls, with a slight wound on his forehead. Go and Sung stares at the large axe in front of him with eyes full of fear. One of the viewers behind the screen comments, laughing, seeing Go and Sung narrowly escape at the last moment. Go and Sung now stands back up. He looks around to inspect the room further. The youth suspects that the room must be filled with traps. Suddenly, as quick as lightning, a large arrow with a sharp, shining tip strikes Go and Sung's shoulder. The youth grimaces in pain as he realizes his body has been hit by the large arrow. Go and Sung is increasingly puzzled, thinking about these dangerous things as he pulls the arrow out of his shoulder. Go and Sung realizes he evaded at the right time because that's what was instructed to him by his armor. Go and Sung takes the arrow and gazes at its shining tip. Go and Sung is shocked to see the arrowhead has 4 sides with a flower-like shape. If that thing sticks into his body, it would be difficult to remove considering its intricate shape. The audience laughs uproariously, realizing Go and Sung wouldn't be able to pull out the arrow if it pierced his body. Most of them have only come to ridicule him. One of them even suggests that Go and Sung keeps the unique arrow as a souvenir or as a bookmark. So far, they are greatly entertained by the dangerous things befalling Go and Sung. Without further ado, Go and Sung throws the arrow with the unique tip into a corner of the room near the entrance. He believes he won't be able to pass through that terrifying room. Before doing anything else, Go and Sung apologizes to his audience because from now on everything will be boring. The youth looks uncomfortable as he will disappoint his viewers. Nevertheless, one loyal viewer says he will believe and stick with Go and Sung. It seems this person is very enthusiastic about following every activity of Go and Sung. Go and Sung is resorting to his old ways. He waits for quite some time until his chickens lay eggs again, so he can eat those eggs that give him a lot of strength. After eating those eggs, Go and Sung's spiritual energy increases, so he starts training to strengthen his muscular and powerful muscles. After that, the youth thanks his audience who patiently waits behind the hologram screen. The youth stares at the path ahead, thinking that he has eaten 20 eggs again for the muscular system. He has also focused on strengthening his status and leveling up his skills. Go and Sung feels his preparations are sufficient and will start the struggle to pass through that dangerous corridor now. Go and Sung runs as hard as he can while carrying a bag of chickens in his left hand. The audience is confused and doesn't understand why Go and Sung is carrying a bag of chickens. They think Go and Sung might just be someone fanatical about chicken eggs. Go and Sung strengthens his focus, his face serious. With strong determination, he avoids his first trap, a large axe. Then he continues running towards the rain of arrows. Go and Sung releases the chickens he brought to avoid the arrow rain. He even startles them so the chickens become his shields completely. Thus, he can keep running without fearing being hit by arrows. The audience is amazed to see someone like Go and Sung thinking of using chickens as shields. Jokingly, someone says Go and Sung should be reported for animal abuse. Go and Sung ignores the comment and just apologizes to the chickens while continuing to run toward the end point. Suddenly, from the front, a large red knife appears, filling the entire side of the room. Go and Sung looks shocked and panicked, but in a very short time frame, he has to think of a way to escape from that giant knife. Go and Sung curses, but he tries to stop the momentum of the large knife with his spear. He even gets dragged back because of it. Feeling that blocking the knife is impossible, Go and Sung finally decides to use the spear as a grip. So he jumps onto the large knife while holding onto the spear. The audience starts to panic and thinks that Go and Sung couldn't possibly block the attack with the spear. They see the spear is about to break. But in reality, Go and Sung manages to land safely. The system appeared and notified that Go and Sung had entered the safe zone. Go and Sung's breath was heavy, sweat dripping profusely from his forehead. In an instant, the young man collapsed due to fatigue and the effects of the focus-enhancing skill had worn off. Nevertheless, Go and Sung felt relieved to have reached the safe zone. In the remaining consciousness, Go and Sung could feel that he was lying comfortably on the sand. Moments later, Go and Sung regained consciousness, and he was shocked to realize that he had fainted for some time. When he asked how long he had been asleep, his audience told him that he had been asleep for a full week. Go and Sung could only sigh heavily as he looked at the imposingly large gate standing before him. The gate was even taller than the obstacles in Dungeon 1-2. Go and Sung's initial response was swearing as he stared at the distant end of the gate. He touched the wooden gate and began to say, "Since there is a door, I just need to open it." Then Go and Sung realized there was a keyhole in the middle of the door that was exactly shaped like the very familiar four-sided arrow. The young man was very surprised to remember that the keyhole was identical to the arrow that flew towards him at the beginning of the corridor. The audience immediately laughed at Go Insung because he hadn't kept the arrow. Now, Go Insung had to go back to the beginning to retrieve the arrow. Go Insung slumped down and said he didn't want to go back. He refused to return to the entrance and face the terrifying obstacles again. Go Insung thought that if he went back, there was no guarantee he could find the arrow again. Finally, Go Insung tried to pick up the arrows around him. He wanted to try using those arrows to trick the keyhole. But then the young man realized that there were no arrows similar to the first arrow. Suddenly, the system appeared and announced that a player with the nickname BJ Instant Beauty had entered Dungeon 1-4. There were 68 spots left for Dungeon 1-4. Go Insung was surprised to learn that this person always managed to be one of the first to escape. The system announced that because there was a new arrangement entering Dungeon 1-4, the requirements had been met, and a new item had been added to the store. Go Insung looked even more surprised. The new option added to the store was a messenger channel. The item allowed players to communicate with streamers from other channels. However, players could only speak to streamers at the same level as them. 10 messages in the item would cost 1 balloon. Go Insung immediately became excited knowing that he could talk to other players. So the young man bought the item right away. Go Insung also received a keyboard and a chat screen. He immediately tried to contact BJ Instant Beauty. In another room, a beautiful girl was wearing red high heels. She looked graceful in a white suit that fit her perfectly, but her face looked annoyed as she said, "What nonsense is this?" The girl was annoyed to see a long corridor like the one Go Insung had faced before. Suddenly, a hologram screen appeared right beside the girl's face, displaying a chat message from someone that read, "Hello, Instant Beauty." A single short message successfully startled the beautiful girl. She didn't expect another participant to be able to contact her. Would they work together or undermine each other? A simple message notification made Go Insung smile happily. His face lit up as he thought someone else in a different room was responding to his message. The girl greeted Go Insung and said that his nickname was funny. Yet in her heart, she thought Go Insung's nickname was very silly. They continued to chat. However, the girl did so while walking along the corridor. Finally, the girl with long brown hair screamed in shock. Fortunately, she managed to dodge at the right time, so the arrow missed and landed behind her. The girl murmured, "Where did that arrow come from?" as she picked up the arrow from the ground. At that moment, she touched her forehead and then realized that one side of her forehead was slightly scratched. The beautiful girl screamed in anger as she threw the arrow that hurt her in any direction. Seeing the beauty throwing the arrow, someone watching wanted to stop the girl with the nickname Beauty from discarding the important arrow. But unfortunately, he couldn't say much or he would be dragged away. The woman's anger disappeared when she asked her audience if she had done something wrong. Now, the sweet face of a beautiful and smart girl appeared, coaxing. Beauty muttered to herself that her true self came out because of her anger earlier. So I have to quickly fix my image in front of my audience. But the audience still couldn't say the spoiler from that corridor and only asked Beauty to at least punish the naughty arrow. Another message notification from Go Insung appeared, asking if Beauty was busy. The girl just replied that she had just been stabbed by an arrow. Go Insung was surprised to read Beauty's reply and asked if she had started walking down the corridor. Beauty confirmed it. Then Go Insung asked what the arrow looked like. Beauty was puzzled and wondered why Go Insung suddenly asked that. So the girl replied. Go Insung was stunned reading the message. He rubbed his chin while thinking about this seriously. Then he thought that the girl was trying to hold him back, but he wouldn't care too much if she didn't tell him. On the other hand, Beauty began to be curious and thought, what if I told the truth that I had already discarded the arrow? After consideration, the beautiful girl finally told Go Insung that she had thrown away the arrow. In his place, Go Insung burst into laughter. The young man had already suspected that the girl would also do the same thing as him. Go Insung even received criticism from his audience for suddenly laughing so loudly. Go Insung then invited Beauty to exchange something. Beauty was surprised to hear this because she thought she had the most balloons in the area. But the girl still replied asking what kind of exchange Go Insung wanted. The black-haired young man replied that he wanted to exchange information. So they just needed to tell each other important things. The beautiful girl at the other end of the chat smiled. It was a smile mocking. She finally replied, "Are you feeling insecure?" complete with a smiling emoji. "This foolish woman," Go Insung exclaimed after reading Beauty's response. He was not happy to be considered a coward. The girl seemed to think of herself as incompetent and weak. An audience member laughed and made snide comments as usual about Go Insung not knowing how to handle women. Finally, Go Insung replied that the girl couldn't possibly escape from this room without the arrow that had just been thrown away, complete with a laughing emoji to reply to Beauty. Instantly, Beauty's face looked panicked after reading Go Insung's message. She immediately asked what Go Insung meant and where the arrow would be used. The beautiful girl even started screaming in panic searching for the arrow that had just been thrown away. Go Insung immediately smirked and replied, "Is the girl starting to feel desperate now?" Ignoring the incoming message, Beauty searched everywhere for the arrow. But because she was wearing high heels and was not careful enough, the beautiful girl accidentally slipped and almost fell into the pool below. But luckily, at the last moment, she managed to grab the edge of the floor and crawl back up. As she crawled up, the girl thought that in a place like this, those who explore would have more strength. So the girl put on a sweet face again and apologized to Go Insung while asking if the arrow would appear again elsewhere. Before answering the girl's question, Go Insung asked how she managed to escape from rooms 1-3. Beauty replied that she used a rope bought from a store and other items to climb the wall. Then Go Insung asked how she managed to escape. Did she climb stairs? It seemed that Beauty was starting to take Go Insung's questions seriously now. Go Insung looked pensive after reading Beauty's message. It seemed like he was imagining what obstacles might be in dungeons 1-3, which he thought might be like climbing walls or mountains, symbols representing longevity. When Go Insung still didn't reply, Beauty became impatient and asked about the arrow again. Go Insung grinned widely, then replied that the arrow was the key to exit room 1-4. Beauty immediately screamed in panic after reading it. She even messed up her hair in frustration. Then the beautiful girl asked if the arrow would appear elsewhere too. Go Insung quickly replied that it clearly wouldn't appear again. Instantly, Beauty's face turned pale and very shocked. Then she quickly asked Go Insung if she also had to find the arrow. But Go Insung lied and replied that he had the arrow. The beautiful girl immediately fell flat on her face after screaming in frustration. After that, Go Insung left, saying goodbye to the beauty who fell into despair. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Go Insung was summarizing the obstacles in each dungeon. He wrote in the sand using an arrow. The young man noted that in Dungeon 1-1 there were turtles. In Dungeon 1-2 there were cranes. While in Dungeon 1-3 there were mountains. Of the 10 mythologies he knew, there were still the sun, water, peaches, clouds, and deer. The young man sat on the sand facing the large gate while trying to think carefully. Now, in that room, there was sand, a steel door, and tall walls that didn't match the remaining symbols. Go Insung screamed in frustration while lying and rolling on the sand. He started to get confused trying to find the midpoint of all the keys to escape from Dungeon 1-4. Meanwhile, in her room, Beauty cursed in annoyance, feeling deceived by Go Insung. Beauty lay looking at the sky. She realized she didn't get useful information even though she told Go Insung she lost her arrow. But Beauty didn't want to give up. She knew the dungeon always had more than 2 ways to escape. Her eyes sparkled. She immediately got up, and her excitement returned when she thought of this conclusion. The girl sat down with enthusiasm. She remembered the past when she always got help from many men wherever and whenever. So proudly she thought, "Many men always line up to help me, Yuhei-san." So the beautiful girl put on an innocent face again to gain sympathy from her audience. The man who had been watching and supporting Beauty immediately became angry at the figure with the nickname "Please Save Me." Comments on Beauty's live streaming started to heat up. The man who had been watching became emotional because the girl seemed weak and hurt. Even a hardcore fan of Beauty immediately sent 15 balloons as a gift to soothe Beauty's heartache. This made the girl even more enthusiastic about acting. Behind the gift, there was a mysterious man who thought that Go Insung acted arrogantly just because he got first place once. So he used those balloon gifts to cheer up Beauty. Beauty thanked him while wiping fake tears from her face. Then another notification popped up, informing that someone had sent another 20 balloons as a gift for Beauty, saying to her that she hadn't done anything wrong. It seems that the person had a victim mentality. Beauty thanked that person, saying that she was not good at talking to men. The girl was good at putting on a sweet face and appearing fragile to be sheltered by her audience. Another notification appeared, announcing that Beauty's #1 fan had entered. The supportive figure of Beauty's biggest fan entered and immediately said, "I came right away after hearing what happened to Beauty. Who's the damn guy who dared to mess with my idol?" The mysterious figure sounded very angry. Beauty was immediately happy to see her loyal supporter's arrival. This girl immediately acted coquettishly and extremely sweet to welcome her #1 fan. Beauty knew the figure with the nickname Queen Bee was her channel's biggest fan. She earned that title after watching Beauty's channel for 200 hours and sending over 1,000 balloons. Beauty was very happy with that figure. She looked very happy remembering how much this account had helped her. Queen Bee of Ethics had sent 100 balloons. After sending quite a lot of gifts, the figure said that if that person acted naughty with Beauty again, then she should tell that figure immediately. She wouldn't go easy on anyone who disturbed Beauty. She would just beat that person until they're battered. The mysterious figure strongly supported Beauty. Just like this, she was already so passionate. She wanted to protect Beauty in any way possible, even though it's clear Beauty didn't know her well. The beautiful girl smiled sweetly and said she would tell Queen Bee. Although in her heart, Beauty thought men just like to boast. Beauty sighed heavily. She prepared while staring at the long corridor in front of her. She started to conclude this, "I need to get a grip and rethink my situation. This path is used by those who flee." She didn't say specifically, But the girl was sure if Go Insung didn't have an arrow either, because if Go Insung had it, he would have already left the dungeon. Beauty's gaze turned sharp. She started thinking about how to get out, then escape from this dungeon safely, and as a champion. The girl suddenly removed the armor from her body. She even took off her blazer and shirt, leaving only her underwear. Her audience started to get excited and asked what the girl was doing. The girl stared at the pool below her, precisely in front of the big waves crashing against the wall. The determination on her face was very strong. Then, with confidence, she jumped into the seemingly dangerous water, making her audience even more panicked and screaming excitedly as if wanting to stop the girl from jumping into the large pool. Meanwhile, inside dungeon, Go Insung was still perplexed. He stared at the holographic screen displaying shop information indicating that in Dungeons 1-4, there was water, bread, cloth armor, and leather armor. He shouted in frustration. The young man remained seated in front of the towering gate, still contemplating whether he really couldn't replace the first arrow. He muttered while touching the cold dungeon floor. Elsewhere, the beautiful girl returned to the wall's edge and emerged from the water. As she struggled to climb, she thought, I knew it. My guess was right. I can avoid traps like this. She continued to cling to the wall's side. The spectators praised her brilliance and agility. The beautiful girl explained that she got a clue when she was searching for the first arrow and fell earlier. But now, she faces a new problem. She had to endure all the way, holding on to whatever grip she could find. She seemed to be having difficulty holding on to the wall side. Inside the dungeon, Go Insung still hadn't done anything. He continued to analyze every obstacle faced in each dungeon. The first room had turtles, the second had chickens, and the third had mountains. So the rest would be like this. One of them must be for themes 1-4, he said while continuing to analyze. The young man kept spinning the arrow in his hand, with his other hand rubbing his chin. A characteristic gesture when thinking. He then concluded the earth floor, iron gates, high walls, and honey. Go Insung carefully considered everything but still found nothing. Frustrated, he broke the arrow in his hand. It was then that he realized something. The arrow he was holding was made of bamboo. What would he do with that arrow? Meanwhile, in her room, Beauty began to struggle, clinging to the wall's edge. She realized she had reached her limit, and she might fall soon. Her body even started trembling from exhaustion as she hung on the wall's edge. However, she remained determined to endure. She thought she was almost there. Finally, Beauty climbed back up the wall. She sat on the edge, bowing her head. The beautiful girl tried to catch her breath properly, until suddenly, thud, an arrow shot out and quickly pierced Beauty's shoulder. Without armor, her smooth body was easily wounded by the arrow. Beauty groaned in pain as her body was tormented. The girl with chestnut hair fell back into the honey lake. It seems the attack wound was serious enough to render her unconscious, dizzy, and falling into the deep pool. Beauty. No. Beauty's spectators began to panic. They couldn't bear to see their idol injured, let alone falling from such a height. Switching to Go Insung's dungeon, the young man was dipping the bamboo tip into the honey. He understood very well that honey could provide life force. Then, as he stuck the bamboo tip into the ground, Go Insung said there was a reason why the dungeon ground was slightly muddy. The spectators immediately speculated that Go Insung was inspired by the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, but they still questioned when the bamboo would grow as tall as the gate. They wondered how much bamboo would grow. Go Insung then waited. He looked up, hoping for a miracle to come down from the sky. On the other side, Go Insung's spectators continued to doubt his decision. They considered what the young man was doing to be nothing more than futile experimentation. Dyurr. The beautiful girl with the nickname Beauty fell into the honey pool. At such a critical moment, she remembered the past. The time when she was still practicing martial arts with her strict teacher. Beauty vividly remembered what her teacher sternly advised. The old man asked Beauty how she could survive in a tiger's den. With great enthusiasm at that time, the beautiful girl with the nickname Beauty answered that the way was to become a tiger. The teacher approved his students' answers and urged them not to give up no matter the situation because he believed there was always a way to overcome every problem. In this way, the teacher successfully boosted the spirits of his students. At that moment, the innocent Beauty asked her father and coach how she could become a tiger. Now, the tough princess, a martial arts coach's daughter, fell into the bottom of the lake. Would she find a way to escape death this time? Different from Beauty, Go Insung was lying relaxed on the ground while continually gazing at the large gate in front of him. He thought, most bamboo should be around 4 to 5 meters tall. The problem was the gate's height probably reached 20 meters. The young man realized there was an exit located further above the wooden gate. The exit was just a circular door that looked very distant. Go Insung suddenly realized he was hungry, so he opened the shop on the hologram screen and bought bread to fill his hungry stomach. At that moment, he suddenly saw something surprising on the hologram screen. It was so shocking that his eyes widened. There was currently an item for acceleration of growth. He carefully tried to understand the information on the hologram screen about this new potion. The growth acceleration potion had a common rank, This liquid could accelerate the growth of living creatures, increasing the growth rate up to 100 times, and did not affect pets. The young man wondered if this meant there were no limits to plant growth. Moreover, bamboo trees were known to grow rapidly, so Insung immediately took the growth potion from the hologram screen. The young man felt like he had found a ray of opportunity. Would he succeed in using this method? Suddenly, an announcement from the system said that someone else had successfully entered Dungeon 1-4. Insung started to panic upon hearing this notification. He thought, they're all coming, so he has no choice. Then quickly this young man poured water into bottles on 2 bamboos he planted in the ground. Then he waited patiently. Before long, the 2 small bamboo stems began to move quickly, making quite a loud noise, and getting stronger as the 2 bamboos grew rapidly. Meanwhile, Beauty finally resurfaced in the pond. Strongly, she pulled out the arrow stuck in her shoulder. This girl said she would get out of there even if she had to become a tiger. The girl was even able to break the arrow with her bare hands. After that, she swam with all her might to get out of the deep pool. Now her spirit for freedom had returned. Insung immediately firmly held both bamboo blades. Then quickly the young man climbed to the top along with the rapid growth of the bamboo. As he suspected, this way was very effective for climbing up. The spectators encouraged and supported Insung because his method succeeded once again. But at this moment, Insung realized that the bamboo was getting thicker so that his palms could hardly hold the bamboo if not for the help of the muscular system. At this moment, Insung sat on top of the bamboo at an extraordinary height. From here, the dungeon floor was no longer visible. Holding onto another bamboo, Insung smiled and told his audience that he wouldn't stop there. The young man immediately climbed the slippery bamboo tree. Would his method succeed again this time? With all his might, Insung grasped the slippery and itchy bamboo to climb higher. His audience started to get bored and asked why Insung kept climbing. They began to suggest that this young man stop wasting time. But he didn't stop and kept climbing because he saw the object in front of him more clearly. At first, he saw something on the ceiling, but then he realized it was a handhold. The young man was sure that the handhold was meant to be climbed. So, following his instinct, he kept holding onto the iron bar on the roof while continuing to walk towards the small door in the middle of the roof. Insung finally found that small door and easily opened the small iron door to reach something inside. When Insung finally held onto something, the young man was very happy. The audience immediately asked Insung to show them the object. But the young man tried to show them the object when he came down later. The young man realized that there was a bridge right below him. So without much thought, he jumped down from an extraordinary height onto the long road below. Crash! He fell so hard that the ground beneath him suffered damage. As he landed, a reddish glowing object he had been holding became visible. The system explained that it was the celestial bamboo fruit. The object had a rare rank. For details, the fruit only grew on celestial bamboo trees. It was the favorite food of the phoenix bird. It would greatly improve someone's health after consumption. But there was also a warning that if someone had a weak physical body, they might not be able to hold it. As the notification sounds about the extremely rare and valuable celestial bamboo fruit came in, the audience still laughed at the young man. They doubted that the extremely rare and valuable celestial bamboo fruit would be useful to Insung, especially since the fruit was only useful for taming the rare animal, the phoenix. Insung decided to put the fruit in his inventory so he wouldn't lose that important item. As usual, the young man skillfully ignored the comments that cornered him. Insung stared at the open door behind him. The young man wondered if it was the actual entrance. What if it was a trap? From the door, a fairly bright and soothing light emanated. Slowly, the young man began to step towards the bright shining small door, pushing aside his doubts. As he passed through the door, a notification from the system appeared again. As Insung's foot passed through the door, the system appeared and informed that the young man had successfully entered the tunnel connected to Dungeon 1-5. Insung immediately cheered with joy. He thought he had successfully entered the next dungeon, until finally, crunch, he fell into the trapdoor right in front of the tunnel entrance. The young man fell and kept sliding into the trapdoor. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Beauty was sitting on the steps stretching her arms that had been pierced by an arrow earlier. She muttered to herself, "I'm almost fully recovered since I used the life honey from 1-3. She touched her shoulder, which was now smooth again, as if there were no remaining wounds from the arrow. That was the effect of the highly effective magic honey for healing wounds. The girl realized there were stairs below her. If she climbed up, it would surely lead to the tunnel entrance. That was the conclusion Beauty made. She stared sharply at the stairs in front of her. But suddenly, whoosh, the beautiful girl jumped down back into the pond. She swam to the bottom of the pond to find the arrow with a unique tip, the one she had previously discarded and lost. The girl thought, because there was a glowing stone at the bottom, it wouldn't be difficult to find it. So she continued to swim and search the bottom of the pond to find the arrow with the special tip. Not long after, Beauty truly found the arrow. Her eyes immediately sparkled seeing the glittering tip of the arrow, which was the most different from the other arrows. Without hesitation, the girl picked up the arrow and took it away. Beauty finally resurfaced. She climbed up one step at a time. As she said, "Now if I return to the entrance and pass through the tunnel, I can enter 1-5. The beauty looked confident as she stepped forward, holding an arrow in her hand. The girl was certain that she would soon enter levels 1-5 after successfully opening the gate. Meanwhile, Insung continued to slide down the very long tunnel. He kept screaming, trying to ask for help, which seemed futile. The young man kept falling, occasionally holding his head to avoid hitting the hard tunnel walls. Finally, he saw a light at the end of the corridor. The young man prepared himself to face whatever lay ahead when he landed. Finally, Insung landed in a more open area. He looked around and found land covered with tall grass and a circle of light resembling a moon. "Oh, the full moon," he exclaimed as he saw the perfectly round moon shape. The system appeared and announced that the user with the nickname "Please Save Me" was the first person to enter Dungeon 1-5. The first participant would be given a special reward, an F-rank random skillbook chest. The remaining capacity of Dungeon 1-5 is now 49. Beauty stood in front of the long road in Dungeon 1-4. She looked annoyed after hearing the announcement that Insung had become the first person to enter Dungeon 1-5. The girl immediately suspected something about Insung. She wanted to catch up with Insung as soon as possible, said Beauty with a blazing fighting spirit in her eyes. Another player thought that he was not the only one thinking about it. "It must be the same for all participants from 1-4, muttered a young man standing at the end of the road in Dungeon 1-4. "TS is first again." The green-haired young man sounded unhappy because he was still at the beginning of the long road. This won't work. I think I need to teach the user "Please Save Me" important life lessons, said a big man who was still trapped at the edge of the wall in Dungeon 1-4. He sounded annoyed because PS always ranks first. "If I didn't have this robe, I would be dead. Why is PS so fast?" uttered a girl wearing traditional brown clothing. She was still confused about how to get out of Dungeon 1-4. The other participants still trapped in Dungeon 1-4 began to grumble. They started thinking of ways to catch up with PS or Insung faster. "I have over 900 balloons. Besides, I've got heavenly bamboo fruit and a random skill book," Insung thought as he checked his inventory on the hologram screen. The young man looked pleased that he had made it this far with so many savings. One of Insung's spectators asked him to open the book and try the heavenly bamboo fruit he had just acquired. Insung, nicknamed PS, did not immediately respond to the comment. He seemed to carefully consider which one he should use first. Insung finally decided he should save the heavenly bamboo fruit for emergencies. So for now, he would open the skill book chest. Finally, Insung took out a small gleaming box. The box turned out to contain an ancient book. "The Iron Will," PS murmured as he read a line of words on the book's cover. The spectators did not expect the Iron Will book to appear in the session now. Seeing the reactions of the spectators, Insung was sure that the book he had obtained must be very good. So, the young man smiled broadly and immediately opened the book, which emitted a beautiful gleaming light. As the first page was opened, the system appeared and announced that this young man had obtained the Iron Will book, which was a skill window. Thus, Insung's abilities were activated. The first skill he obtained from this book was concentration reinforcement. With the special skill from the book, his ability would increase in terms of statistics and physical for 3 minutes automatically before he dies. But if the user exceeds the maximum level, then the skill level will increase even more. Before death. What does that mean? The young man looked shocked as he read this part. "Ha ha ha ha. Do you think that's good and have high hopes for it? If you use it, you'll end up with us," one of the spectators said, sounding satisfied as he laughed at Insung. "A frustrating skill that will kill me after using it." Insung sounded despondent as he thought about this, but one of the spectators then explained that the explanation was not complete, and that ability would show its true value when he was in a desperate situation later. Insung became excited again hearing that. But then the spectator said that Insung was only directed by a conversation intended to attract his attention based on his interests. Insung's expression immediately changed to annoyance. He just realized that he was being played by his audience. Ring. Suddenly, the system appeared notifying that Insung could choose his manager. Instantly, the young man with black hair was surprised once again. "I can summon a manager." Insung repeated this important vocabulary. He immediately sought more detailed information about the manager. The young man thought this was a system helping him to give authority. The live streaming audience began to clamor to be chosen by Insung. But Insung had already made a decision. He had decided to choose someone who always paid attention to him and gave him a balloon gift from the start. Insung smiled broadly with peace, remembering the person who always paid attention to and supported him. Then, with enthusiasm, Insung said that he chose self-reflection. and pleaded for that figure to come out immediately. The system appeared and announced that Go Insung had decided to choose self-reflection as his first manager. If later Go Insung wants an additional manager, then he must reach a higher rank. Suddenly, the wind blew fiercely and a shining yellow light fell right in front of Go Insung. Along with the light, appeared a figure who was tall and sturdy. He said, how long has it been?" The mysterious man had a distinctive heavy voice. His hair was long and blonde. His clothes were also very unique, making Go Insung and the audience puzzled. Go Insung then realized that the person was a stranger, not a Korean. Go Insung examined every inch of the appearance of the adult man in front of him. The young man seemed to be weighing how to communicate with his new manager. But suddenly, the stranger asked if Go Insung was disappointed because his new manager was an unfamiliar older person. Go Insung quickly answered no. From his facial expression, Go Insung seemed uncomfortable because of his disrespectful behavior towards his new manager. The adult man then said that he was glad to meet Go Insung. But then this man explained that in the outside world, he was usually called by a different name. While shaking hands with Go Insung, he said that his real name was Socrates.